Well, hello, Bame Farm fans. We're on the last 4 rows of corn at home, and we're chasing pheasants. They don't want to leave the corn at all. They like their cover and the protection. We're chasing 4 roosters. They don't like to fly. Now the hens will fly for some reason. Yeah, they finally got that foot of snow to melt down enough. Enough cold air, there they go, there goes one. Enough cold air to get the ground to freeze through the snow. But it's hard to get the ground to freeze when there's snow on top because it insulates it. Got it down to there's probably 2-3 inches or less. And why did you come back in the corn? All you gotta do is leave the corn bud. I'm going full speed just to see how fast the pheasants can run. 3.5 miles an hour, which is pretty speedy for how this stuff is leaning. Most of it was standing pretty good or standing enough. Didn't need a down reel or nothing. And that is the corn harvest at home. And there's the pheasant. Everybody say hi. This doesn't necessarily mean that we're done with corn. This means the corn at home is done. Well, over the river and through the woods we go to get corn. Curious how thick the ice is. This could be all too interesting. We'll see what happens. I don't know, maybe I should set the camera up outside somewhere for this first time to watch it crack and fall. Like, I hope it's not at a point where it's too thick, you know? Or not thick enough where it cracks and I fall through, but I can't like climb back on top. Oh well, action shots. Well, wasn't that exciting? I mean, there's 3 inches of ice, which is good. But that's on top of mud that'll hold you up. It might even be thicker than that. Look at that chunk. It's 4 or 5. But the ground probably isn't froze that deep because of the snow on top. But that's why I'm not going to be taking wagons across that. We're going to have to run up the hill every time. Well, here we go. It's the second day. I didn't get any video yesterday, really, the shelling. Sometimes just the brightness of the sun, maybe for my eyeballs, maybe the camera does better, but it annoys my eyes. I don't feel like filming. Because I think maybe the camera won't correct so well. Woo! Yeah, let's have some fun crossing this. Do this every load instead of bringing wagons over this. Maybe I'll set up the camera again sometime and we can watch how I drift up this hill. Yeah. Hopefully you can tell it's spinning there. And if we do this right, we go real fast and turn the rear wheel. And kind of drift around that corner on the hillside and get up the hill quicker. Oh yeah. Let's get a little action here. Okay, let's get back to it. Now we're over halfway, I guess. Maybe got the headlands done. I used to plant this field 90 degrees to how it is planted now. I would have so much trouble in this back part with it not standing well because the winds that usually were destructive were 90 degrees to the rows. And for going through those hurricane winds and everything else, it's probably, other than what I shelled at home, some of the best standing corn. We're starting to lose the frost. Of course, this is the big flat section, which should have a really great corn since it doesn't drain the greatest because of the dryness we had last year. Woo! I'm like frozen spots. Makes it a little interesting. Just sailing a ship and it's going where it will and not where I want. Warp speed. I don't know if it feels fast for everybody else, but it's fast for me. 3.5 on the ground radar. See it pouring in now. Let's stop and check the yield monitor. The yield monitor says we got a dirty window. That's what it says. The yield monitor's dirty. But grain's flowing in. Haven't cleaned that window since beans. Maybe that side's cleaner. Well, since the yield monitor was a little dirty, we'll get an analog view. Well, how's the over my shoulder view? We'll watch ground speed and rotor speed instead of engine RPM. How about that? Oh, it's not dark enough yet, but we'll shine some light on the situation. Because of copyright reasons, I really don't want to have the radio on to worry about that. This thing has got the most creature comforts of any tractor I own, and it's funny just how quickly combines depreciate and lose value. And this is the fanciest, newest creature comforted machine I own. Had one issue with some hydraulics, figured that out. That was the solenoid. The head wouldn't raise. Thought it was the switch. Wasn't the switch. Took that apart, put it back together. Then I thought, well, maybe what if the solenoid's going bad? Had to study the valve stack to figure out which one of those worked the head. Took the nut off. That hooks the solenoid onto the top of the valve, and it felt too loose when I took it off, so I decided just to tighten it back up, and that was it. Wasn't a loose wire. The solenoid was coming loose off the valve. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm glad it was a time fix and not a parts fix, but it's the fact that it's electrical related. And I always think electrical stuff is chasing butterflies, because usually, unless it's just a wire on fire, you can't see what's going on. Now, sometimes I'll cut down the middle, but with it starting to get a little less solid, I hate having a track on both sides of the pass, because then the combine will want to fall back and forth. If it's just on one side, yeah, I'll get caught in that track a little bit, but it's pulling me away from the still standing torque, we'll say. It's mostly just a little slimy on top. You gonna work? There, slap your electronics. That's how you fix them. Drought corn there, but I know that shouldn't be a problem back here at all, because water usually is not an issue. Okay, we got a little crisscrossy action. But it's high enough off the ground. Run the tips really low, and it unweaves itself just fine. Get your act together. Of course, at speeds like this is when you manage to break something. If you catch a snout in the ground and it's frozen, that could be problematic. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Get your act together. fell apart. Looked at its connections, put it back together. Don't know what the magic elixir was, and it worked better than before. Mostly has required less smacking this year than before. Here, see, it's behaving. It's gotta threaten it more, I guess. Different view. I haven't seen that before. Put you up there and watch me work. That's how those European kids get famous. They do kind of maybe a time-lapse type video. Just watching them drive. Who wants to see my ugly mug? Probably is ugly today. Only gotta look pretty on the weekends for the girlfriend. Middle of the week. I'll get a bath every Saturday, and if you believe that, you don't know how to take a joke. Oh. Well, I turned the camera around, and this corn is a little more crisscross, but it's off the ground fine. It's just annoying with the combine climbing over ice chunks and falling off them. Happy with the growing season. The corn must have been pretty good. It was just open for frozen ground and got snowed on there after a while. I'm not setting any speed records like I want to be. Maybe I shouldn't have hauled that combine back in the fall, because that shot a couple days. There's so many things I shouldn't have done, but they're done and it's in the past. And we're just gonna move forward. Have that farmer's hope for a better year next year, and I don't know, after how dry it was, we'll be in for another wet one like we usually get. I'll be struggling to plant through June. It'll be wet, wet, and wetter, and I'll be back to drag the rain away. I hope not. I don't know, most of the action is me with the steering wheel and thumbing the thing. Okay, now we go board speed. Just the very end by the trees was protected and it's standing perfectly. And that was the efficient part of this operation. Now, we're only doing 4 rows. I probably could go to have 20 end rows instead of just 12 to have more room to turn around. It works for the sprayer, and I hate doing end rows. It's more fun to go straight back and forth, I guess, and then have to reverse a little bit on the headlands. I could do a big like circular loop if I really wanted to, out and around. See if the return grade, it caught up and quieted down before we got back